So you're in a global pandemic and you're trapped at home, but you still want to play Dungeons and Dragons. How do you do that? I'm Scott Micklejohn. I play Valentine on the Wildcards.
I'm Kyle Bryden. I am the Dungeon Master to the Wildcards. Welcome to Hexplorers. Today we're going to talk about playing D&D online.
What a blessing playing D&D online has been. I don't know how we would have gone through this pandemic without that.
I wouldn't have. Just couldn't. I couldn't do it.
But I fondly recall like the growing pains of it, especially like when we were editing back our series, The Wildcards, which you can check out down below. You can see us like learning on the fly how to do it because it is different than playing at the table.
It's very different. Like there's a multitude of differences in actual play, in experiencing and missing those kind of experiences, like physically together. But for the most part, it's not that much different. Ultimately, we're still telling a collaborative story. We're still having a great time. And it's just the moment of getting to like see everybody again and continue this like shared experience that it makes it all worthwhile. All these like little fumbles of technology and trying to find our way through Skype and Zoom and all these different things to make it work. But we made it work. Yeah.
And we'll get into a bunch of stuff, how we do it, some of the things we learned, how you can like better your own game if you're trying to play online. But I'll just say off the top, I like playing online and I didn't think I would, but part of it I enjoy almost more than the table. I mean, obviously the one thing you miss most is being around the table with your friends playing, getting to like share that experience. But like there's certain parts I really, really like. And I think the big message here, Kyle, we were talking about this off camera, is you can totally do this. It's totally possible and you can totally enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, we have a pretty big variation in the technology that everyone's using to accomplish this. Two of our players, both Leah and Brock, they're not even on camera. They're just using a mic and like headphone mic, like nothing crazy. Scott and Amanda's rig is a little bit more.
It is crazy.
Yeah, properly crazy. I've slowly developed mine. Kevin sits on it. He's half slouched on his couch half the time with a laptop, but we get to play. It's the same game. It's the same people.
Let's get into that a bit. So we'll talk about tech. We'll probably have a full video about like each of our individual setups, how we can do that from like a DM perspective, from a player perspective. But what you would need to know just for starting out, like here are the only things you need. One, a way to chat with your friends, like a video conference thing is the best. We've tried out a bunch, no disrespect to any of them, but Zoom I think was our greatest. Don't you agree?
Yeah, Zoom had the best specifically for us for our different technology bases, but for recording, it was the best quality thing. And that was part of what we were looking for to try and put this together and record it. Zoom definitely helped out the best. But we had some weird tech glitches with some of the other ones. Aside.
No names. We will take sponsors from anyone. But then, yeah, like we were mentioning earlier, we have players who don't play with a webcam, so don't feel like a barrier to entry is a webcam. Even Leo was mentioning this off camera. Like all you need is a mic and speakers or headphones and a connection to the internet, and you're playing.
Yeah, I love using my physical dice. I have a little dice tray off to the side. I use I use physical minis. I still keep the physical part alive in our game because I still love that part of it. But I have D&D Beyond to do all character sheets, and all my stuff is on dual monitors. Like I've got a bunch of stuff always at my fingertips, which is, as to your point kind of earlier, there was a lot about playing online that I was worried about. That has very much been kind of alleviated through the act of playing.
Totally.
I was super worried that it wasn't going to be the same game. I thought my DMing style was going to have to change, and like you guys were going to have to kind of change how you played. And it was weird for maybe the first couple, once we were just kind of getting used to the little bumps of it. But after that, everything is just like fallen into such a great groove that it's going to be weird to even go back.
I know. I've never loved our game more, and I adored our game, but like I feel like we've grown with this game, and it's like evolved our campaign for the better. D&D Beyond, you mentioned, it's been huge. It's been great. Massive. I think I started playing with my sheet, and I do love a sheet. I still use real dice. Like I have them here. Like I need to roll it. One of our players doesn't use dice. He uses an app. You can obviously do it on D&D Beyond. But yeah, I will say D&D Beyond, it's free. I mean, you could pay for it with a subscription, but like wow, is it glorious for our needs?
100%. 100%. And like, so not only that, like there's all of these free, easy to access things to get you into the game, to get you as a player and as a DM. Like you don't even need the physical books really. Like they're going to be great. You're going to want them because they're great. And I love reading through them and getting inspiration that way, but you don't even need that to play this game. There is no barrier for entry as long as you're willing to have a little bit of fun and imagination with your friends. Like that's getting into the game from there. It doesn't matter if you're at the table or doing it like this. It's the same game. It's the same people.
So we kind of talked about it there. I think, Kyle, you mentioned like you bringing the battle map in and me using like, I'm a tactile dude. I like rolling the dice. I feel the magic in the dice. Like sometimes the dice gods will bless me or curse me. More curses than blesses lately. Yeah, sometimes. But so how do you try and bring in that like that around the table vibe while we play online?
Well, it's different because we don't play music, which is definitely taking some of that like atmosphere out. So everyone kind of has their own music in their own headphones and stuff like that. So you can kind of almost flavor it better to what is suiting you in the moment, which is kind of nice and frees that side of things up for me as a DM. I don't have to think about it that. But what it does mean is not that I didn't do it before, but I feel like I have a bigger need to bring the magic and atmosphere even more vibrantly through my description and through just involving your characters in different things and things you're seeing and smelling and sensing in the world, really to try and hit all of your senses at once and just really make it real. And it's not so much different than what I would do at the table, but I feel it was more important here where you don't have all the people, and that there's just something about the magic of the physical thing. Everyone around a table, all huddled together. There's this weird sense, this physical sense of everything all together that we lose in this method, which is too bad. But we've found it over time.
I know. Yeah, I literally had written down 5 senses as you were saying that, because that's what I feel like you've done such a good job at through your DMing. Is like I always feel like you're intriguing and like giving to our character senses. I feel like we've just learned this as we go along too. Like I feel like your voices have never been better. Perhaps it's because I'm hearing them like clearly through my like audio. But even like pacing of things, like pacing of speeches, pacing of description. Like you said, it's so much more important when it's through this, when you can't like engage someone physically at the table. Yeah. Do you want to talk about so first off, and just a like closing thought on that, all you need is a way to talk to your friends, whether it's video or some sort of like group call. You don't need a webcam. Yeah, you don't even need dice. You just need your friends and a sense of imagination and collaboration, and you can play. What about role-playing stuff? There's one thing that like has stood out to me that I think has helped our game by going online, and that is, this is kind of going off role-playing. It's kind of going off just like inter-party dynamics, and that simply is we don't have like crosstalk at the table anymore, and it's amazing.
It's huge. It's really, really huge. Like everyone learning to share that spotlight a little better because you're forced to in this method. Where at the table you still do it. You still share the spotlight as best you can, but there is definite like some side conversation, somebody on their phone or something that kind of loses a little bit of that that immersion. This somehow, I don't know what it is, whether it's the screen, like you're like it's like watching a movie or something, you're literally immersed in the experience, and it's just weird. I found that is definitely something that comes through this digital version. I don't know if you can speak more to that.
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah, like even not metagaming, but like trying to set up your party members for like good moments or something they might have forgotten. So instead of like leaning over, I always sat next to Leah, Mary at the table. Instead of leaning over to her and having that conversation being like, yeah, oh, hey, don't forget about like that dagger in your pocket. I can privately message her, not interrupt anyone when they're talking. I can privately message and be like, hey, what about that dagger? and then she can have that moment if she wants to run with it. As well, another part of like our setup is we have like a group messenger thread that we use, and that's like a good place, or even our Zoom chat, but that's a good place for like your snide, crude jokes that you might make at the table that might break concentration, or like the dream state you guys are like creating. So it's still funny and people can laugh on mute, but it's not like disrespectful. And sometimes at the table, it is disrespectful when someone's like, "Oh, Kyle, that name sounds like genitals," and you're like, "Great, thanks for ruining my like description I've worked on."
I'm only midway through my big bad evil guy's huge speech and monologue, and I guess we'll take a moment here and laugh. And now I gotta pull y'all back into. This is really important. You guys are gonna die. Let's not joke about balls and stuff. But I still want to joke about balls and stuff, but in the right place, you know.
In the right time.
Yeah.
Something else, we kind of just did it there. And you have to have the patience for this. And we've been so blessed because we're friends, but we're also very respectful. It's sharing focus, sharing like when you interrupt someone and being respectful of that.
It's very difficult. And this is kind of reiterating that chat feature. Having still the outlet, like we have some real jokesters in the group. Having that outlet for that is so great that like, you know, you can throw GIFs and other videos and references. You can still maintain these other like little moments of conversation without detracting from that immersion that we've built as a DM. Like that is huge, because even though I can kind of see it in my periphery, you know, as we're playing, it doesn't pull me out of what I'm doing, and I can maintain world focus. I can maintain the atmosphere at least mentally, and I think it's gotten across to the rest that like we break every now and again, and that's okay. But in those really dire moments when you really don't want that tension to drop, it remains, because we have this like singular focus, the singular line that we're all in together.
And I think I remember talking to you early on when we started going online, and saying something to the effect of, "I hope you know, like, I don't want to disrespect you if I ever interrupt you. Like, it's never intentional." And you made it very clear to our whole party, like, I want you to interrupt me when you have a thought. Like, this is a game and things need to happen. There will be some times where I say, we'll get to that in 1 second. Because again, you're finishing like a big bad thing or you're leading up to a moment. But I felt like you've done such a masterful job at that. I even remember in our game 3 days ago, interrupting you, feeling bad. And you were like, no, go. Like you're very encouraging to people's offers at the table.
And I would encourage anyone who is watching this to do the same. Like as a DM and as a player, there is absolutely a time when you are nervous to interrupt someone's action or someone's literal speech. But if there's always a good reason, then play it out. Like if I just tell you, hang on 1 second, we're going to wrap this moment up and then get to your thing, it's going to happen. It's going to happen, and that's okay. But let's just get through this moment here, and then we go to you. Like there's just this sharing space that we're in that we all need to be cognizant of what each of us are trying to do. I think as a DM, like you have a lot to try and get across and try and focus on in 1,000 different ways, but keeping like pace is one of the main keys to my game, at least, and how I like to run us. I like to keep a proper flow, and that is included in that. Essentially, as we get through this moment, the pace continues with this next moment, and as soon as you have something, if I'm in the middle of just describing some scenery, and you can kind of tell it's just scenery, we don't like dead air. So like if you want to jump in on something, jump in, please. You have something that's important. Your character wants to say something. Your character wants to do something. That's great. I would rather you do it then than hold it and it never happened, because then you feel like you weren't able to get across.
You lost a moment.
Yeah, we lost a moment and it's gone forever and we can't get it back. And as part of that whole pacing thing and making sure that you're getting the moments across that you want to as a player, or any of our players, obviously, a lot of us, but the two of us specifically, we come from a world of TV production, and I hate I hate the idea of dead air. I just, as soon as there's a dead moment, I feel dead inside.
Yep.
I need to keep moving. And that is something I'm working on, because I want to give moments to breathe. I want to give you guys time to think. I've definitely found in this game, I've found it's given me this online style of game, give me more time to sit back a bit and let these moments breathe, and let you guys really kind of take and run, and give more moments in between for thought and for action than constantly hammer down, go, go, go. And I don't know, it's just this world is just kind of give you a moment to step back.
Yeah, I feel like from the player perspective too, like echoing what you said, it's that momentum, and it's like wanting to keep up with that momentum. We would have games when we started playing. Everyone has these kind of games where you finish an arc and then you like have a shopping episode, or you have like a what do you want to do next episode. And I do remember like driving home in the car with like Kev and Allie and being like, well, we didn't do shit all that game. Like we kind of got the hints of like our next plot, but I mean, it's always a fun time around the table, but this has really made that like paramount to like keep momentum going, like stay engaged, keep moving forward. The other thing I was going to say, just from like a player perspective, something I try and do, and sometimes it's not intentional, it like comes from my like improv background, and it's making offers and calling people in. And so it's like, if I started talking and Lav started talking, or better yet, because Lav's beside me, if I heard Hondo start talking or saw him move because he's on webcam, and I continued talking, when I finished my thought, I always want to point to him and be like, but Hondo, you were going to say something.
That's a great like maneuver that you use as a player to keep that going, especially in this world where you don't have those like visual and physical cues of sitting at a table. You have to call it out in this kind of world, but that encourages people to keep going and encourages momentum, and keeps you encouraged and keeps you connected to people who may be afraid to speak up and say something. And that's what you need. We need both DM and players to kind of draw those moments out of those people, and this is a really good way to do that. This game, but this way as well.
Yeah, it's called like in improv, it's making offers and accepting offers. And so it's just like calling on another character and just being in character, asking them how they're feeling about this situation. And like we've loved these moments when we've played online where like inter-party chats, like different personalities meshing, going on watch together. We stumbled later in our game going through watches, but kind of having tiny vignettes of conversations with like interesting pairings of people you wouldn't expect to be on watch together. And it's been a joy, I think.
Yeah. So there are plenty of benefits. There are plenty of downsides to playing online. You can lose some character moment by being online and by the whims and wills of technology not working, or just kind of these weird inconsistencies and people butting heads on video chat. It's just not quite as conducive to role play, but over time you'll find a way to make it work.
Don't want to talk too long because you and I are both over talkers, and D&D we could talk about it forever. So like any other obvious benefits we can outline, or any like pitfalls we can outline? I mean, we'd written down in like our pre-doc, an obvious benefit in a pandemic is there's no travel involved. It's safe. And even outside of the game, let's say a player moves across the world, or you get scattered. I mean, how many people, I talk to people at work who used to play D&D and they're like, but I can't play anymore. Our party fell apart because people got too busy. People couldn't get together at the same time.
Like that's a big one. And even in our own group, Amanda had never played D&D at all, let alone with us, because her schedule's kind of weird, and it's a long game, and we live a little bit further from you guys, and we were the host for the game. But this has solved all of that. So now Amanda's a regular, and we get to have Lavender, and that's been amazing. So yeah, travel, obviously the safety in the middle of a pandemic, but keeping this is for a lot of people, and specifically for me, D&D and this is my creative outlet. This is how I deal with the world. This is how I cope with a lot of things. It's my outlet. So without that, it would be incredibly difficult to have gotten through this, and with it, it's made it bearable.
And if you want, like we did, to start your own streaming channel, way easier to do this than trying to set up a bunch of camps.
What we initially thought at the very beginning. We took way too long to do this.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know.
So
and this made it so easy. You hit record. All someone needs is a pro Zoom account, and then you're recording if you're using Zoom. But we've talked about this too. We adore anyone who watches these videos and would support them like crazy. Please do watch these videos. But these recordings are also for us. It's been such a delight to have these recordings to look back on at these moments shared around the table with your friends, revisit these like high tension or very silly moments. That's been such a blessing.
As a DM, very useful to keep track of spells, items, and things I've said that I was like, oh, I guess I have to write this now. Oh man, why did I say that? You're in the moment. But now I have a physical or a literal thing I can go back to and listen to the crazy bullshit I said, and now I'm stuck with it. Here we go. But we have that.
So Kyle, as we wrap this up, what would be like the closing thought you would want someone to walk away from this chat with?
Closing thought is always that there's no barrier for entry. Play D&D. It's great. It's awesome. Have fun with your friends. And really, there's no super good excuse why you can't.
Yep, I would echo that too. And from, I was always a perfectionist growing up, and that would prevent me from taking opportunities or trying things out. So don't be scared. Make mistakes, play D&D, just be silly, have a good supportive group of friends you can play with. And again, now you're not limited to gather around the table by proximity. So like open it up, call on old friends. It's such a great way to connect.
Absolutely. And if you need examples of how to do it online, watch Hexplorers. Watch Wildcards.
Damn right.
Right here.
Yeah, damn right. That's all for us. We got plenty more of these chats coming up. You can look at them down below. We thank you so much for watching. If there's any questions you have about playing online, we'd love to hear it. Just throw it in the comments down there. Kyle?
Yeah, as I said, the Wildcards will be a new episode up every Tuesday, so stay tuned for that. Please consider subscribing and stay tuned for the next one.